Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Dreamers Game 1, where we are playing Yomi. This is turn 76. Let's jump into things. So, right off the bat, we have received 40 fire gems from Helheim. So, boom. Put that up there. This is a trade. We are sending Helheim water gems in exchange for fire gems. Our hope is to put up End of Culture. I believe Helheim's hope is to try to put Vengeful Water back up. So, we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed. We've got a bit of sight searching this turn. Harspex has found a Veil of the Silver Cattle. So, that's an odd one. I'm not used to that one, so let's go check that out. That is this. It provides 200 supply points, 40 gold per turn, which is nice, and increases growth. So, nothing crazy, but a little bit of gold. So nice. Augury's found nothing. A Voice of Apsu found a Lake of Living Water and a Weeping Stone over here in Brightwood. So Lake of Living Water is +1 water, and Weeping Stone is +1 water. The Lake of Living Water is also a event site. So if we come down here, we can see in Brightwoods, right? The Lake of Living Water has been found. Sentient forces dwell below the surface. Perhaps one skilled in the path of water could bind them to service. So in theory, if we can get a water mage over here, we can have them try to summon some water elementals, which is pretty neat. Not like end of the world, but pretty neat. So we got that. Nothing with an Auspex, nothing with a Dark Knowledge, Arcane Probing, Augury, Gnome Lore. So yeah, that's it. So we also hunted for 15 Blood Slaves this turn. I think I'm going to just include Blood Slaves into the gem income, because that's something that, is interesting for reporting, but we'll see if I actually end up reporting it every single turn or not. So for now, gem income, water +2, and blood +15. So we get that. And then we've got some battles. Not a lot of battles this turn, but we will watch through them. Ubar attacking Helheim in Wold. Typical lifelong protection returning Shaitan. This one kinda balanced out in gear. So Chainmail of Displacement is typically a defense booster item, right? So there's that. Oh, this one's horror marked. Interesting. Probably from the lifelong protection. Then we have a Dragon Helmet and a Serpent's Cuirass. So this actually hits pretty hard as far as poison goes. It's very difficult to actually... Unless you're undead, this poison is going to fuck you up. So, kind of cool. No shield or anything like that. Or other weapons, so somewhat interesting. My assumption is just not planning on actually getting in battle. Pretty easy, it looks like. Oh, actually rolled right up next to them. Wow. Okay, so that's a win for the Shaitan. We have a couple little battles. We are raiding in Erd with a little combined force of Akisada and Kintoshi. So it's just Principes here, and they have no leader, so they're running, so we win there. We attack into Kolar Megger. Let's see what we got. Okay, so this is... And we can actually see... so this is Man-Hate and Fear Tongue, and we can see there is a Leprosy here, casting Soul Vortex. So we run into something. We run into a Tartarian. Okay. Wow. Okay, we run into Leprosy, the Tartarian Monstra. So this thing has an interesting kit. It's got a Bottle of Living Water to summon a water elemental. It's got a Dancing Trident, which can be nice for repelling, right? Length 5, 14 attack, can repel fairly well. Has Fire Plate and Dragon Helmet. I'm assuming more for... Well, I was going to say I assume more for the morale, but this thing is a 30 morale undead creature, so probably not. I guess just to boost fire resistance. That's fire 10. And then actually has a true shot longbow. And this is a little strange to me because this is a fire, water, death caster, right? Could easily just like Horde of Skeleton, chaff spam. True shot longbow is kind of interesting in that it has very high precision. But it doesn't do anything else, right? So like it's very high precision and decent against like weak targets. A Tartarian has high strength, high base strength, so you can use something like a Tartarian to buff up, right? Give them the strength boots. Well, not a Monstra, obviously, because they don't have feet. But if you have feet, like a regular Tartarian, you can put strength boots on them. If they're earth paths, you can do things like Strength of Giants, right? And the idea there being is that you get a true shot longbow that's very, long range, super high precision, so very likely to hit. And then, every third of your strength is added into the longbow. So if you can get up to like 30, mid 30s on strength, you'd actually be hitting really, really hard with the true shot longbow. If you get other things added in there, like maybe it's an earth air random or an earth nature random, right? Like you can get things like aim or eagle sight or whatever, right? The other aim. And basically just try to snipe people down. That is not a horrible thing to try to do. It's very interesting. But on a Tartarian Monstra with fire, water, death, I am not sure what the point of a true shot longbow is, right? I feel like anything that you would be doing, just cast Soul Vortex, do like Liquid Body or something like that, and then just spam Horde of Skeletons. So we're gonna see, like, she actually casts Raise Dead, right? And then it looks, so she's got another Horde of Skeletons. So what it looks like she's set to do is to cast a couple things and then set to fire, right? I guess for the concept of like not fatiguing her out. Create a little screen of chaff, and then you can fire behind the chaff. The only thing is we're gonna have more chaff, right? Like, we're absolutely gonna have more chaff, and unless she is able to plink one of these lich, and in point of fact, she has actually hit one of them. She's hit both of them. And almost taken them out, but they have pierce resistance, so they're taking less damage, basically. So eventually just surround her, and she's strong, but she's not overly tanky. She doesn't have regeneration, and I say and boom, she actually has a lot of HP, so this takes a while. So I just don't think like as a kit, right? I'm not sure what this was intended to work against. If it was, if it's up against liches, right? The Soul Vortex isn't going to do anything. And she did get close to actually like sniping out one of the liches, but you snipe out a lich, okay, it's an immortal creature. I just get it back next turn. I have to replace its gear, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if you're gonna try to like catch those, maybe you're death 3, maybe you try to disintegrate them, right? Because disintegrate, I believe, is just like soul slay, same type of situation. Maybe it might not be a immortal killer. I'm not sure. Anyways. That just seemed weird. The other scenario is if you do want to build like a bow-based person, I think there is the Soul Slay like crossbow, right? So like you could do that. And even if you're not concerned about going up against liches, right? The only other thing I've been raiding with is Dione, right? So a 19 damage true shot longbow isn't gonna do really anything against a Dione. Because a Dione is gonna have 30 plus protection, and it does have piercing, so it's gonna ignore a third of my protection, so it's gonna bring that down, except all of my Dione are going to have Temper Flesh, so they're also going to be resistant to piercing damage, so that's going to kind of like get half. So you're going to do chip damage on the occasion, right? When you get through the shield that the Dione has, right? So these layers of defense. And when you do the chip damage, it's gonna get regenerated. So I don't see. This is kind of like the the sprite trick. With the body ethereal and the principes. It's an interesting setup, right? But I don't see what it's gonna do to what I have, right? Like, it seems like it is an interesting thing to try to do, but that it has no chance of succeeding against what is being thrown at the player at this point. So I'm kind of curious as to what's going on there. It seems like Urmor has, like, if we think about it, Tartarians, right, are Conjuration 9, right? Yeah, Conjuration 9, Tartarian Gate. We know they have Enchantment 9, Arcane Nexus. We also know they have Construction 9 with Juggernaut. We know they have Aethergate, but that's... So we know they have at least Conjuration 9, Construction 9, and Enchantment 9. So, like, they've got... And I'm assuming they have pretty good on all the other stuff. So they've got a lot of stuff, right? They should have a lot of tools at their disposal. It just feels like none of these tools, none of the things that Urmora has been doing the last few turns, are things to counter... to counter me specifically, right? So I'm very curious about that. Anyways, moving on from there, that was battle in Colormegar. We also get hit in Pannonia, and this is right our first actual vision or sight of these Ether Warriors in action and these Juggernauts in action. So both very interesting units. Ether Warriors are good HP, good base stats, right? Ethereal, magic beings, amphibians. They have a moonblade, so they will cut other magic beings to fucking ribbons. Even if they aren't facing other moonblades or other magic beings. Look at this, right? This 21 fucking attack. Easy gonna hit a Dione, right? Magic damage, just base 36, unbuffed, right? These things are killers. They will chew our Dione to bits. So, kind of talking about, like, none of these things are things that are going to work with what we have. These will, right? Like, what has been thrown at us previously hasn't really had a chance to work. This, if it runs into a Dione, absolutely will kill that Dione. And to kind of make things worse, they are led by these Ether Lords, right? Relatively decent casters, able to just sit back and either Horde of Skeleton spam or Soul Slay, right? So, pretty cool. And then they have them kind of escorting these Juggernauts, which are very interesting tramplers, very high HP, Dominion spreaders, they're immune to stun, they are auto buffed, I believe, right? Like, because they are Dominion spreaders, they automatically have your bless, I believe. So, magic weapons, reinvigoration, undying 2, undying leadership, so not really anything. But they're very interesting. They're very slow, but in theory, these could fuck up Dione as well, although that's less of a concern. Either way, not really an issue that we have to worry about in this particular case. So we lose in Pannonia, and we get hit in Belmar as well. And this is that fucking... This guy's cool, I think. That fucking Blinker Flambeau user, right? The only thing that I would say is like, this guy is a little bit of a crapshoot. Like, if he blinks in the wrong spot, like right next to a Dione or something like that, he could absolutely just get got. But it's fairly unlikely, you know? So, with those battles, we have a ratio of 2 wins, 2 losses versus Ermor for the turn. Some fun little battles, nothing consequential, but just some interesting things that are going on. A couple of events. We already saw the Lake of Living Water event in Brightwoods. In Ghent, a blind man has donated a curious item to a temple. A blind man gives us an eye catcher. Interesting. And then in Yomi, a pilgrim from a distant land has come to witness miracles in the temple of our god. So we gained a pilgrim. So pilgrims are interesting in that they are stealthy creatures, right? Which we don't really have any stealthy creatures, so is what it is. It's nice. So events this turn, we gain an eye catcher and Manvale, the pilgrim. Cool. And that is pretty much it for the messages. So what are we doing this turn? Let's talk about actual things. I say let's talk about actual things. Let's talk about all the base stuff before we talk about the actual. Let's talk about like recruitment and rituals and forging and stuff like that real quick before we talk about movements. I think I've been thinking about this for a while, but I think I want to shift around when I talk about things. So I think I want to go through the messages, then go through all of the base stuff like recruitment and rituals and forging, and then I want to spend the rest of the time talking about what the plan actually is. And some of that's going to kind of cross over, right? Because sometimes while I'm talking about rituals or forging, that is talking about the plan. But bear with me. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, so recruitment is fairly simple this turn. 2 Naminaris, 1 Bakemono Chief, and 1 Dione. Not a crazy amount to explain there. We're just adding in some Naminaris for efficient research compared to Onishugo, and we need an extra Bakemono Chief to go pick up more of these Bakemono, and that's pretty much it. Dione, because fucking Dione, yeah, right? Rituals, we are back to our good old ways of site searching all over the place when I shouldn't be. We've got 2 auguries, 1 auspex, 1 voice of Apsu, 1 gnome lore, 1 arcane probing, 1 dark knowledge, 1 haruspex. We have 9 corpse constructions because I'm still wasting my air gems doing that. And we have the first turn, I think, where we are doing 3 manifestations, all targeting Ermor's capital. So, should be a fun little artillery fight at the start of the. Nothing crazy to talk about there. Honestly, just I think the manifestations have been fruitful so far. We've taken out, I think, 2 augur elders and a number of augurs. The augurs less important, but the augur elders are absolutely good catches. I do think at least one, if not both, of the augur elders were twice born, so they're not completely gone. But if they're twice born, I gotta kill them twice anyways, so might as well jump on it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I am considering other options with my air gems, but also at the same time, I just really want to have a good amount of buffable chaff to potentially hold. So here's part of the thing. I'm also expecting, if I go into war with Ubar, I'm expecting to kind of get alpha striked by a couple of different things. Ubar's not quite elf, material, but they're pretty fucking close. They're on the chart, right? So this is something that I haven't really talked about a whole lot, but in this whole war with Ubar, Helheim, Lanka, and my war with Ermor, Ubar did end their nap with me a little while ago, but then when things heated up with Helheim, they kind of like backpedaled a little bit, and they were like, okay, hold up, never mind. Can we reinstate the nap? And I went along with that, right? Because this was basically right when I started the war. with Ermor about 3 turns ago. So maybe not that long ago. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, that's been going on in the background. So I'm trying to make sure none of my forts are just super easy targets. But we'll see. You know how it be. Anyways, forging stuff. Got a couple of interesting things this turn, but mostly normal stuff. We've got 2 lightless lanterns. We've got a crystal coin. We've got 2 firebrands, 1 dragon helmet, 2 rings of regeneration, and 1 amulet of anti-magic. So that stuff's mostly pretty normal. Just filling out armor sets and things like that with the firebrands and the dragon helmets and the rings of regeneration, that type of stuff. The crystal coin is new, and that is because we empowered Kathleen, right? We now have access to crystal options. We're going to go ahead and start producing maybe a couple crystal coins, I'm not sure, but at the very least, a crystal coin to start with. I'm trying to decide where exactly we want to go first. The idea of getting golems does interest me, but we are a ways away from being able to do that. It's going to be 2 turns before we hit Alteration 8, and then it'll be probably 6 turns before we hit Alt 9, depending on what's going on. So that's a lot of turns. That's a ways away, and I don't want to detour right now. I don't want to pit stop in Construction 7 to pick up golems. I don't think that would be a horrible idea, but I don't really want to make that. I don't want to stop aiming for Army of Lead, Army of Gold, that type of situation. So I think, generally speaking, it's better for us to just aim at that rather than deviate. So Kathleen is going to get us into some interesting cross paths and give us the option of doing some other things. But for now, she might just forge some crystal gear here or there, and we'll see how that goes. So, all right, that's all of the stuff to actually go on the list. Let's talk about what we're actually doing this turn and what our near goals are. In the Heartland, this is mostly just maneuvering Ko-Oni about and blood hunting and that type of stuff. We are sending some new Bakemonos over to the front. We'll see how they do. We just got them out of an event, so might as well. Up in Hinnom, we are heading over to Relothia to troll that down. And other than that, things are mostly normal. In Ermor, there are a couple of different things that are happening, but there's really it really boils down to a bunch of different raiding and 2 main things. The first main thing is we have kitted out Ainu in what we want, right? Basically, we just swapped out a lead shield. Ainu has 34 magic resistance, right? So with an Iron Will, that's going to be 38 MR. I don't think, the amount of exploding dice that would require is kind of absurd. Is it possible? Yeah, in theory it's possible, but I do not think, unless Ermor changes what they are doing, they are going to be able to stop Ainu, right? So we're going to send Ainu in and see how that goes. So we're sending them to Silver Wall. We are hoping, right, obviously, that they don't, if they engage, then, if they engage, they would probably win, which I don't really know why they have not engaged. So I honestly kind of feel like I'm being given this war because of Ermor's inaction, because it feels like Ermor is hesitant to engage me. And here's the thing, right? Like, I haven't talked about this a lot, but it kind of makes sense. This is a Dreamers game, right? So this is a game of what is supposed to be relatively inexperienced players trying to get their first win, right? And other player, like, bear in mind, players in this game are also playing other games at the same time, so they might have already gotten their first win by the time we got to this point in the game. But regardless, the Dreamers game tournaments, right, are intended to be a proving ground for people to get into the regular tournaments that Lucid hosts every year. So I'm being critical here, but it makes sense that perhaps this player, one, just is unsure of themselves, or two, just doesn't have a good idea for what they are trying to accomplish. Or at this point, maybe they were just bored, or maybe they just didn't have enough time to do stuff. But I do think if they were actually fighting against me, like if they attacked me with this massive army, they probably would have won. But as it is, if they don't do something, I do think I'm gonna kind of cheese them with Ainu as a super combatant. We'll see how that goes. Aside from that, the other thing that we're doing in Urmor is this little trap. You can see a lot of arrows going to Dershit. So we saw in Pannonia the Ether Warriors. These guys are really dangerous, and they can be a very big problem if we engage them on typical terms. But if we don't engage them on typical terms, they'll get destroyed. And what I mean by that is, if we, for example, send in a bunch of Horde of Skeletons casting and a Rigor Mortis, which I do believe will affect them. Undead and inanimates are immune, but Ether Warriors are magic beings. They're not undead or inanimates, right? So if we throw out Rigor Mortis and we just flood the battlefield with skeletons, the Ether Warriors will eventually go down. The question mark right here is actually the Juggernauts. So if we take a look back at the Juggernauts in Pannonia, right, these guys are inanimates. So they're not going to get affected by the Horde of Skeletons, but they're so incredibly slow. I don't know if a Juggernaut can actually do anything unsupported, right? Can do anything against 50 to 100 to 200 skeletons, right? So obviously they'll crush every skeleton that they run over, and they do have high protection, but they have blunt and pierce resistance, not slash resistance. So I think the majority of the time, skeletons are going to be doing chip damage to them, and they don't regenerate. So, you know, I'm hopeful that if Urmor heads into Dershid, which is a possibility, you know, they very well might not. But I'm hoping that they're going to attack into Dershid, kind of like maybe to attack into Silverwall. Maybe that's why they haven't fought me yet, is they're trying to bring up their Dione killers, right? But I think at this point, the real Dione killers are the mass amounts of Soul Slay and Enslaved Mind, you know? So, anyways, that's the kind of plan. Aside from that, we're raiding in behind them. That is dangerous. We might be sending Akasada to his doom, but we're raiding into Belmar. We're raiding into Pannonia, and we're gonna try to set a little trap in Dershid for these Ether Warriors. Because if we can catch these Ether Warriors out, I'm not super worried about. I'm not super worried about raiding around in Urmor's lands from there, basically. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, I think that is going to be the end of this turn. Nothing else to really report as far as like the war between Ubar, Lunka, and Helheim. I can say it's not going great for Helheim. But they very well might hold out until I can finish Urmor. And then maybe, I don't think so, but maybe I will pose a threat to Ubar or Lunka, or maybe they'll just turn on me, or who knows, right? But my hope is that, you know, Ubar and Lunka have been working together for a while now. And typically, well, I say typically, but it's very... These types of alliances tend to be nice, strong, serviceable, right? Until there's only like one other threat. Because if it's two people that continuously gang up on someone else together, a la kind of like alliance, as soon as there's only one other person left, they tend to start eyeballing each other as kind of like this situation of like, oh, we've got to be careful because if we both go in on the last person, i.e. me, then the other might try to sneak things in the meantime when we're not aware. So it tends to, I don't know. I feel like when it gets into a three-way, it starts to be a three-way, right? It tends to be rare when something like what I did in Tetragrammaton happens, where, and honestly, that as soon as there was an opportunity, we both started swinging in, you know. So I don't know. Anyways, I hope Helheim can survive. Period. And if not survive long enough to let me beat Ermor. But I don't know. I haven't seen much from Ermor yet, so I'm really actually kind of curious to see what they have up their sleeves, if anything. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching. That'll be it. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.